I've got to ask you, Paul, because you know you're well versed when it does come to blockchain, and you're obviously not living under a rock. So, in terms of this whole conspiracy theory, and I don't want to necessarily say it's a conspiracy, it's not a conspiracy, but choke point 2.0, because we are starting to see, you know, that the big institutions are squeezing out the other players in the crypto environment. Regulators are apparently favouring these big institutions. We've got the Fed potentially launching a CBDC any day now. Is there any justification for that belief that this is all one big setup?
No, there's definitely no justification for the idea that it's all one big setup. But I think this is one of those like classic market development processes. You've got startups, they disrupt an existing industry. Many of them fail. So there's nothing unusual about having an early stage industry with a lot of startups and quite a few frauds. Then the second thing that happens is you get big banks or the big incumbents, and they look to protect their turf. And so they lobby regulators for an environment that's somewhat more favorable to them, while at the same time starting to put their money into the process. So this looks like a kind of a regular market dynamic where a huge amount of innovation goes on. There's a lot of intense competition. There's quite a bit of regulatory lobbying, and then things kind of steady down. To have a conspiracy or to have kind of a really systematic process, you'd have to believe that there's one single government agency or regulator or enterprise that has the power to do that. And I don't see that, because all around the world, we're seeing a couple of things. Number one, inside the United States, we're seeing a lot of regulatory activity, and it's not completely unified. You have the CFTC, you have the SEC, you have the House and the Senate that are both thinking about regulatory actions. And then secondly, outside the United States, you have a lot of what amounts to regulatory environment competition. There are countries like Japan that have done an incredible job creating a really positive regulatory environment. There's the European Union, which has got MiCA. The UK is developing its own regulatory environment. Switzerland, Dubai. There are now more and more good regulatory choices. So what I think we're seeing is pretty normal competitive developments. The game is by no means over, by the way, either. But it actually is a hugely bullish sign that the big players are actually making these investments. They're pushing ahead anyway. It really indicates that this ecosystem is locking in on blockchain, and in spite of many people who want a centralized version, we're headed towards a world of two dominant decentralized blockchain: Bitcoin as digital gold, Ethereum as a digital transactional ecosystem.